All right, we are back. So it's been about 8 months, and I know a lot of you have asked for part two of my review of the BenQ TK800, and here it is. So I've used this projector for the last 8 months. I saw a lot of really great engagement in my last video, a lot of comments, a lot of thoughts and impressions, and hopefully I was able to help some of you out. There's some questions, and hopefully I was able to respond and give you guys some helpful insight. Feel free to do so again on this video if there's any way that I can help you on your decision making with a projector or setup. I'm happy to do so. So this is the BenQ TK800. It is a 3000 lumen 4K DLP projector producing a pixel perfect 8.3 million pixel image on the screen. When I first got this, as you may recall, if you saw my first video, I was a little bit skeptical about a projector with the color wheel that has an RGBW setup, how that would do. In the past, I've seen implementations of that color wheel setup be a little bit overcooked on the whites or maybe a little bit washed out in the overall image. And this projector, just like I said in the first video, has continued to impress me, so much so that it remains my primary driver in my dedicated home theater 8 months later. So a lot of you have asked about a quick tour of my home theater. I'm gonna probably do a different video on that if I can find some time, but I'm gonna spend about 2 or 3 minutes just walking you through my home theater and giving you a little bit more context on why this projector does so well. And then I'm gonna go into a couple of demos on my settings with this projector, the settings that I finalized on over about 8 months of using this projector. I'll wrap up with final thoughts and impressions on this projector and maybe a few things that it does well, maybe a few things that it can improve on, and we'll get you on your way. So this home theater is about 4 years in the making. I spent a lot of time designing it in a little program called Sweet Home 3D. The folks over at avsforums.com were awesome in giving me the input and help that I needed to make a lot of the decisions that went into this home theater. One thing that's a little bit unique about this theater is that it's actually under my garage, or as my friends in the UK would say, garage. Actually, we built this house about 4 years ago and then spent 1.5 years living over in the UK in Reading. So I was saying garage there for a little bit. Anyway, so it's under the garage, meaning that I have 3 7x21 foot, I guess, was it 720? Yes, 7x30 actually, no. So it's 21 feet wide, 30 feet long, 3 7-foot by 30-foot pre-stressed hollow core concrete slabs that were placed over this room. This room is dropped down 3 feet lower than the rest of my basement, giving us the ability to do a riser platform for 2 rows of seating in the bar. The walls in the rest of the basement are 9 feet, and the forms on this room are 12 feet, giving me a finished ceiling height of about 10.5 feet. Let's take a step back here. So the screen that I'm using is a 160-inch acoustically transparent 1.0 gain screen from Dragonfly. It's the in-house brand from Snap AV. Snap AV is an awesome installer-only company. They do really, really great things. And it's actually where a lot of my equipment came from. All of my surround sound pretty much came from Snap AV and their speaker line Episode speakers are awesome. This is the second home theater that I've done with Episode speakers. They are amazing. This is their 900 and 950 series surround setup. These are the surrounds. I have 950 series LCRs in the front behind the acoustically transparent screen. And for the Atmos overheads, I have the Signature Series 1700 6-inch in ceilings, and they are awesome. For the subwoofers, I have 4 12-inch Evo Series subwoofers, 1 in each corner. And then I'm also running these speakers right there in phase. And they basically match and mirror. So I have this row has its own surround channel. I guess that's the same channel that their speakers really. And so I have these two are the same channels. They're just serving two different rows. So I have an amp serving the back row and an amp serving the LCR set up as well. And then there's the rear. Kind of fun with these overhead speakers. One thing, if you are building a theater in a suspended slab garage setup, is you're gonna have to figure out a way to fit speakers in a shallow cavity. I didn't want to do like I-joists and take up the valuable ceiling height by doing that. And so we did a pretty unique setup with the ceiling mounting to the underside of that concrete, which you can find. I'll link the description to the forum of my build out below. But these, I still need to caulk it, but these mounts for my overhead speakers were done with salad bowls. I was kind of stressing out how to do that, and so I found these flat-sided acacia salad bowls as the mounts, and they actually, I think they're awesome. They turned out great. Okay, so that's the home theater. Last thing, maybe last plug, we got the bar back here. A step up, and so this is wood. This is concrete. How do you like those pants? And this is a solid core double door using an outside external threshold with weather stripping. And so this is airtight. You guys, I mean, when we get this room bumping, you cannot tell in the rest of the house. It's a concrete bunker shell. You can just crank it in here and the kids can be sleeping, the wife's sleeping, everyone's happy. It's awesome. Acoustic treatments are also done by Snap AV. So let's talk about this projector. I'm gonna go sit down and get into demo mode. Click on play. All right, so I uploaded the video and there was a takedown notice from BBC. So I'm going to do an HDR demo with just one of the stills from the Planet Earth 2 4K Blu-ray. This is playing on an Xbox One S. This is 4K Blu-ray Planet Earth 2. And I'm going to talk about HDR. And first and foremost, I just want to say that I feel that BenQ does the very best job of any of the projector manufacturers, at least in the affordable end, the consumer end, at their HDR implementation. And I feel like the TK800 especially does a good job because it's able to leverage what I was talking about before, the balancing of brightness as well as color accuracy. And the brightness is a really, really key factor in nailing down good HDR because it does dim down the overall image. And so if you have the brightness, if you have the ability to do the color accuracy, what you're gonna get is typically a pretty good HDR image. And I think that BenQ does this really well without oversaturating the image. So the settings that I have on this, I have my own HDR picture mode that I've set up. And then brightness 53, contrast 48. I'm a tinkerer, so I did change a few things. Sharpness 6. I'm gonna go into advanced, and I left HDR brightness as the same. Now color temperature, I set it to cool, and the reason why is because it is a little bit warm. The HDR image was a little bit warm, I felt, and so I typically like a more natural image, which also leads me to the color gamut. Now, between BT709 and BT2020, those are the two that I switched between. This projector, and especially with this 4K HDR Blu-ray source, can handle the full BT2020 space. And it really just comes down to personal preference. Now the BT2020 space is going to give you a very rich and vibrant image, and it's going to do the color space that the Blu-ray intended. However, I'm gonna switch to BT2020 right now. It just is, it warms up the image and it creates a very, very vivid and not too saturated, but more saturated than my personal preference. I'm gonna switch back to BT709. The BT709 is going to give, you can see the water's more blue and not like a teal green. It's gonna give that iPhone screen color type look to it. So it's kind of what I was talking about before, the iPhone versus the Samsung screen. Samsung is gonna be really rich, vibrant, and pop.
and iPhone is going to be a little bit more muted. So BT 2020, BT 709. The brilliant color set to on. I always like light mode set to normal. So that's the HDR demo, and we're going to move to a few bits of sports action.
Here we go. So I use the Xfinity X1 platform for my TV. And so I'm going to change the mode here. This is the mode that I keep it on like 90% of the time, football mode. And football mode out of the box, BenQ is known for their out of the box color accuracy and color image quality overall. It's great. Again, just having to change anything and everything. I made a few tweaks and adjustments. Brightness 53, contrast 47, advanced. I'm going to talk about gamma selection. Here's the color settings that Art recommended. Color temperature normal, red gain 100, green 98, blue 99, red offset 251, green offset 252, blue offset 245. There you go. And then brilliant color is set to on by default. And then I personally like to leave light mode in normal because you're then avoiding any dynamic dimming. And with this big a screen, I just like full brightness all the time. But by default, I believe it's on Smart Eco. And they do a pretty good job with Smart Eco and having the Smart Eco be pretty dynamic and quick about detecting the scenes that need dim and bright and all that. So let's talk about gamma selection. This is really the only thing that I will ever change on the fly. So gamma selection, there's BenQ's proprietary gamma selection option called BenQ. And what BenQ does is it follows a nice S-curve in its gamma implementation. And what that does, it creates darker darks and brighter brights. And so that sounds great. And actually, to my eye, in most situations, for casual watching, it produces a better image. And it's what I actually leave it in most of the time is the BenQ gamma selection option. I think that's actually the default. But there are some situations. I'm actually going to change it to the jazz game. Alexa, turn on the jazz game.
Okay.
So when this comes up, I think you'll notice this is a live game. I think I'm recording it. Let's see if I can go back. Yeah, I am. Okay. So I'm going to go back to some content on the screen. So the Jazz have, and I'm from Utah. I love the Jazz. The Jazz have like a very bright court for some reason. Like if you ever watch the Jazz game, you'll notice like it's just a bright court. And for me, it's like too bright. When I always like to leave it on gamma selection BenQ. But when I watch the Jazz game, I think this is a perfect example of where I think the BenQ option struggles. And so when I watch the Jazz, I actually change it to gamma selection 2.1 because what the BenQ is, like I said, it's making those brights brighter and those darks darker, and the overall image is brighter. And my wife, when I changed it to BenQ one night, she's like, wow, what'd you do? The image looks so much better. It's when I changed it to the BenQ gamma selection. It's just punchier, poppier, and for most content I actually think it looks better. But I'm going to change this. I'm going to do it. There we go. So I'm going to change it to 2.1, and you can kind of see what I mean. Hopefully you can catch this. So you saw the court before was a little bit washed out, but now the court with the 2.1 gamma selection is like in its natural habitat, I guess you could say. It's you can see like if someone's like wearing the pinstripes, or if you're watching football and someone's wearing a white jersey, you can see now like the wrinkles in the jersey. Like in this case, now I can see like the grain in the wood on the floor. Right. And so it's not like so overpowering, but overall the BenQ gamma selection is the one I go with. It's just like in situations like these, it's like when there's too much white on the screen, it's a little bit overpowering. This is Donovan Mitchell. All right. So go Jazz. I am going to wrap up here. We're about 16 minutes on. This is all right, so final thoughts on the BenQ TK800. I mean, the thing just kicks butt. It really does. I think that it represents the best value in 4K projection currently. There's a lot of competition out there, and the reason why the BenQ has won my heart, to be honest, is that it does such a good job at balancing the brightness, at balancing the color accuracy. And it's really that brightness piece. I really think it is, because what that brightness does is it allows it to really shine, no pun intended, in the HDR department, that implementation. It allows it to shine in 3D. And then what it also allows it to do is it allows it to shine with really big projector screens, which I feel is where 4K HDR, 4K is really made for on these big screens. The HT2550, I really like that projector, but I feel like with this brightness, I'm gonna go with this projector about 9 times out of 10. So I'm gonna give you a few scenarios. If you have a projector screen larger than 120 inches, I am going to recommend this projector all the way to the bank, pretty much every time. If you have a projector screen that's less than 120 inches, my answer is going to be it depends. If you have a light controlled room, a dark theater room, and you want to take advantage of the color accuracy and the really, really great Delta E of the HT2550, I'm going to recommend that actually. If you have a dark room with the screen size of less than 120 inches, get the HT2550, great projector. If you have a screen size less than 120 inches and you have ambient light, backroom lighting, lamp lighting, or you're gonna have sports parties, people coming in and out of the room, you don't have light control, then again, get the TK800. At around $1,000, $1,100, $1,200, with the next generation of 4K projectors coming, this really represents an outstanding value. If I were to give it really any marks against it, it's going to be contrast is acceptable. It could get better in the contrast. I feel like with the HDR implementation, the BenQ, I actually think that helps it a lot. The overall brightness as well, it increases the perceived contrast because the brighter brights are gonna help cut through that. That BenQ gamma selection setting is gonna help as well. Placement flexibility, it doesn't affect me because I was able to get this exactly where I wanted it, but lens shift, that would be nice. And then the light border. But the thing is BenQ, I think, does a really good job listening. I've been a fan of this company for a while, way back when the W1070 was around. That was my first home theater projector, and that thing was awesome too. They listened to their customers, and they kind of heard what we thought about the TK800 and the HT2550, and their upcoming projectors are gonna really kick some butt, and this TK800 is going to be a great value for those who want to pick this up on a still. And so that's my final thoughts and recommendation on the BenQ TK800. If you guys have any questions really about my home theater, about this guy right here, let me know. I mean, I'm super happy to just pitch in and answer questions that you have, and I'll try to respond quickly. Sometimes I get busy and not able to respond quickly, but if you have questions about this projector, any 4K projectors in general, I've had the Epson 4000, which was great, but since it only has half the pixels as this, I didn't feel it had the sharpness that I wanted. HT2550, I'll be reviewing some other projectors soon here and hopefully giving you guys a little bit more knowledge about these guys. So hit me up, let me know in the comments, or just message me. I'm gonna link that description to my home theater build as well. Let me know if you guys want me to do a more thorough review and theater build out type video. So anyway, I'm gonna go. Let me know if you guys have questions. Thanks.